Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and Happy New Year! It's 2020 Thrive. That's what I heard when I was in South Africa. It's not 2025, it's 2020 Thrive. And here's the thing, folks, if we're going to thrive in 2025, if it's going to be a real 2020 Thrive, I'll tell you what I think you need to do to live a better life, and that is discover your passion. Now, I would love to say that I made that up. I didn't. Actually, it comes from the book written by Shadan Kapri, Discovering Your Passion, The Path to Your Authentic Self. We had her on, and unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties. And if you've ever been in worked around technology, here's what we know. Technology is great until it's not. And then when it's not great, it's just not great. And we use a lot of technology on the show. And it just didn't go great. So I asked her, and I said, would you be willing to come back and do this again? And she said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Okay, sure. And Mike going, well, that was easy. And so she came back, and she's great. We had such a good time the last time doing this, not knowing that, by the way, half the show didn't show up. So we got some safeguards in place this time to hopefully ensure that that doesn't happen again. I say that knowing that technology can be an issue, and we all know that it can. Before we get to Shadan Kapri, who is brilliant, by the way. Trust me, this is my second time with her. She's brilliant. Before we do that, let's see what we do. For 7 years, I have been saying to you, you're four-part people: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. And for 7 years, I've asked you to rate yourself in each one of these areas on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being average. And the fact of the matter is, people have said to me, Jay, it's the same thing every week. Why are we checking in every week? Let me tell you why we're checking in every week. Because if we're not growing, we're dying. We never stay the same. There is no such thing as static life. We have to be an active participant daily in it. And we have to live our best life. And in order to do it, those 4 areas of our life contribute to the success of not only who we are, but what we'll become. And in all the areas of our life, in all our relationships, we need all these 4 areas to be working in concert with each other. It is an orchestra of different parts that when they work together, it's a beautiful, beautiful, it's a beautiful song that comes out of it. And so what I have you do is I have you rate yourself in the areas physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And when I say that, what I want you to do is I want you to think about yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being average. And I want you to think through physically, if I were to say to you, how's the exercise regimen going? How about eating right? Eating really the right things, not eating junk. How about hydration? How about sleeping? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you're doing? Now, listen, if the number is low and you say, Jay, it's not good, I don't want you to go, oh, I'm a loser. No. What I want you to say, this is where I start from. This is the day I improve. Okay? And work from there. Okay? And don't go from a 2 to a 10. Just go to a 2 to 2.5. And there's little ways you can do that. All right? So that's your first number. Second number is the mental intellectual number. Fact of the matter is, folks, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of yourself and the world around you is critically important to our growth. What are you doing to enhance that? I believe reading books is a great way to do that, right? Especially great books like this one, Discovering Your Passion. It's a great book, and I believe that's a way that you grow in that. But you can listen to books too. The thing I say about listening to books, though, and I say this to my coaching clients, listen to a book on your way. But before you leave your car, write down one thing that you're going to take action on that you listen to, right? Because intellectual, mental wisdom and knowledge and understanding doesn't come without action. You can learn a whole lot, but if none of it goes into action, what is it? It's really nothing, right? We just accumulated stuff, right? So put it into action. That's your second number. Third number is your emotional number. Folks, listen, are you in control of your emotions or not? Okay, the fact of the matter is, when somebody cuts you off in traffic, what's your response? Do you give them the one finger salute? Do you scream and yell? Are there a string of 4-letter words that come out of your mouth? that you wouldn't want your grandmother to hear, right? That's the first part. The second part of it is, we got to get past our own selfishness to really tap into and understand other people. How willing are you to do that? So if you were to evaluate yourself in those two areas, what number would you give yourself? And that's your third number. And finally, the spiritual number. I know a lot of people aren't very comfortable with spiritual things, and I get it that you're not. But let me just say this. We all live by faith. We all live in a world of things that we can't see and understand and explain, and science does not have the answer to everything. I'm sorry, it just doesn't, right? I know there's science, but there's also bad science, okay? I have an S in one of my degrees, right? And it's an M in the first one. I have an MS, a Master of Science. I taught experimental methodology. Can I tell you something? Science is not always good. It can be garbage science, okay? But the spiritual stuff, what keeps us going when then there's no reason to keep going? When life is throwing you things, how can you be in the middle of peace and chaos? We all know we people who just a peace in the middle of the chaos, right? What do they got? They got something spiritually that's happening. And what are you doing? Are you using God or nature or meditation? Is it working for you? And what do you need to do to change it? Those four areas, like the air and the tires of your car. One of those tires are low. What happens is the car's hard to steer. If all four are low, you're going to ruin the car. And speaking of someone, she's got her tires all to the right height. Her name is Shadan Kapri. She's a prominent author, advocate based in Spokane, Washington. Yay, go Cougs. Best known for her impact writings on social justice and human rights. She has been described as both a beacon of light and a call to arms, reflecting her commitment to inspiring others to join the fight against injustice. She has authored her latest book, which we have right here, called Discovering Your Passion, which encourages readers to pursue their true calling through their passions. Her contributions to literature have earned her all sorts of accolades, including the International Impact Book Award for her efforts in promoting sustainable practices and environments. She continues to be a powerful voice for change, advocating for living the life you are destined to live without boundaries. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. My friend, because I get to call her that now because we've been doing this twice, Shadan Kapri, welcome back to A New Direction.
It's so great to be back. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's talk about something here. In the introduction, I reread this again. I reread it. Discovering here's what you say in the introduction. One of the things you say. Discovering your dreams and passions make life worth living, even in the darkest days. And I just got finished talking about the spiritual realm. And talk to us about discovering your dreams and passion and why it makes life worth living in the darkest of days. How does that work?
None of us get through life without scars. We all have scars that we get from just life experiences, things that happen to us that are unfair, things that happen to other people that we feel outraged about. And when there's that popular quote by Nietzsche that says, creating is a salvation to suffering. And so when you create and you discover your passion, it sort of brings this light inside of you. It brings you back to life. Because we all go through periods of time where we have ups and downs, and sometimes life just kicks our butt. God knows I've been there. And there are other times where life feels like it's going, pretty well for us. But you can't be a human being in this world and not go through those ups and downs and those scars. And so one of the ways that has really helped me when I've gone through difficult times in my personal life is focusing on what I can do, focusing on what I can create, focusing on really just kind of helping other people in any way that's possible. And for me, my passion is writing. I love to write. It's what gets me up in the morning. I love to write about social justice. I love to write about corporate greed. I love to write about things where I know this impacts real people every day. And those are the things that excite me, even if other things in my life are not going very well. And I don't care who you are. You're going to have those ups and downs in life. It's just a matter of how we get through them and who we become because of them. Someone told me years ago that you can either become bitter or better.
Mm.
And I think about that all the time. And my goal in life is to be better and to help inspire others to be the best person they can be, to be the best version of themselves.
You say something else here that I thought was very powerful in this introduction. And you go on to say, re-examine the times when you thought you were being rejected, only later to discover that those experiences were meant to be part of your path, so that you would learn valuable lessons. And here's the power of what you say here, Shadan. And I don't know how I missed it the first time, but I'm not going to miss it this time. Here's what you say: we begin to realize how rejection is redirection. That's powerful. Walk us through rejection as redirection.
Well, we all go through it. We all have dreams that don't bloom. We all have things that we wanted to do.
Oh,
Me, I'm gonna have to come back. Do you want to start again? Did we?
well,
I think
so
we went out.
we just lost you there for a second.
I know, because someone tried to call me. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good.
Okay.
So let's go back to, we begin to realize how rejection is redirection. Not getting what we want can and does lead to a better life. Walk us through rejection as redirection.
So all of us go through periods of our time where, we have dreams and those dreams didn't happen. I remember when I was in my 20s, I had like a 2-year dream and a 3-year dream and a 5-year dream. And of course, none of that happened. My life kind of just took a different path. And so at the time, we're devastated, right? The relationship doesn't work out. The job doesn't work out. The situation doesn't work out. But then years later, we look back and we see that by having that thing, whatever that thing is, not work out, it put us on a different direction. And oftentimes it's a better direction. It's a better use of our talents. It's a better use of our skills. And it's a better opportunity to really make an impact. And so this is something I've learned in my own life. There have been times where I have just been so desperately, defeated in my own life. And I feel like, this, I really wanted this, whatever this was, the job, the relationship, and it didn't happen. And so years later, I look back and I feel like that rejection sort of redirected me to a different path that ended up becoming better for me in the long run. But at the time, I was so devastated, I couldn't see past my own pain.
Mm. How difficult it is for us sometimes when we're in the middle of it to understand that we actually have a control mechanism for us to control our attitude in it. If we can just relax long enough to not focus on the problem, but to say, this might be the best thing for me right now that I'm going through. And that is a very difficult thing to do. But when we learn to do it, it becomes very powerful for the future of our lives, knowing that any rejection that happens, regardless of what it is, knowing that I have a power over the attitude to respond to it, I think becomes really powerful. Would you not agree with that?
Right. And really, the only thing we can control in this world is our response, is our attitude. We can't control what other people say or do about us. We can't control what happens. We can control how we respond to it. And that is where our real power lies. I mean, I'm sure you've read books about people who've been in the Holocaust, and what you can take away all of man's freedom, but you can't take away the freedom that they have inside of their brain to help them overcome whatever it is that they're going through. So I think oftentimes in life, we go through difficult times and we kind of think our life is over, right? We were like, oh, this was a dream, or this was something that was supposed to happen for me and it doesn't happen. Or we fall into a situation that we didn't anticipate. And I think the most important thing is our attitude towards it. I always think to myself, when I go through really hard times in life, I try to step back and kind of look at it as an observer and take my emotion out of it. I know that's really hard, but I step back and I'm like, okay, what is this supposed to teach me? What is this supposed to do? How am I supposed to use this for the greater good? Because ultimately, you will go through shitty things in life. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. Yeah. You will. It is inevitable. And one of the sad things about our educational system, it doesn't talk about that. It doesn't prepare us for the things that we really need to be prepared for, which is the rejection, which is, those times where we really want something but we don't get it, and then years later, I know in my own personal life I've seen this, where years later I look back and that thing that was so devastating to me at the time, that just broke my heart, I look back and I'm like, thank God that that
Yeah.
relationship didn't happen, or that job didn't work out, because it put me on a different path. And it does take years, because you have that, hindsight's 2020. But then when you look back and you think, yeah, no, this worked out better than I could have anticipated. But you have to give yourself that patience, and you have to step back and sort of look at your life as an observer, and kind of take the emotion out and say, what is this supposed to teach me? How am I supposed to change from this, evolve from this, and what can I do to create something that helps other people that go through something similar? And if you can do that, if you can really focus on that, I can't imagine a better legacy.
As you're talking, I'm reminded of the great philosopher Garth Brooks, who wrote the song "I Thank God for Unanswered Prayers."
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think what happens is, if we were to just think through our lives, the things that we wanted so badly, we're so glad we didn't get.
Yeah.
Right, and yet in the middle of it, we're cranky and we're mad, and we're maybe yelling at God, or yelling at life, or whatever it is, because we're not getting it our way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important for us to recognize that the very thing that you probably want so badly may not be the best thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't know it, because we don't know
Right.
how it's going to, evolve, or how it's going to play out. And so we think like, oh, this job or this relationship or this situation, oh, it would have been so perfect for me. But you can't predict how things will evolve. And so I know for me, I look back in my life, and there were times in my 20s where I just felt kind of, I felt defeated, or I felt like I had these big dreams, but they just seemed so out of reach. And I think the first step is just to kind of get to know yourself, find what your passion is, find the things that make you come alive, and pursue those things like your life depends on it, because it really does.
Yeah, and I think it's a great segue into chapter 1, which is entitled, which you have entitled, I didn't title it, you did, Discover Your Dreams. And you say, we got to go back. If you want to discover our passion, we need to look back. Explain that to the listener. And by the way, thank you everybody for watching and listening. We appreciate you. But explain that for us, please.
Oftentimes when we are children, these things come so easily to us, right? Kids don't have the baggage that adults do. Kids don't have the burdens or the problems that sort of weigh them down. And so as children, we can express our passion, if it's art, if it's, through music, any number of things. But as we get older, we get these messages from society, and oftentimes our parents, teachers, friends, oh, well, why are you doing that? That's not a good use of your time. Or why are you pursuing that? That's kind of dorky. And as we get older, we sort of lose sight of the things that we really love, because we're trying to conform to this person that we think society wants us to be, our parents want us to be, our family expects us to be. And we all go through it. Some people go through it more than others. I know last time we talked, I mentioned how I come from a family of doctors. And so it was very expected that I would go into medicine. It was kind of indoctrinated into me. But it takes a lot of courage to sort of branch out and say, that's a wonderful path, but that's not the path for me. That's not going to use my skills in the best way. And it's hard. It's really hard, because you will get the rejection of family and friends when you go against the grain. But at the end of the day, if you're miserable, then you're going to make everyone around you miserable. So really, it's a no-win situation to follow what others want for you when it's at odds at who you really are.
Her name is Shadan Kapri. Brilliant, isn't she? I think so, and I know you do too. The book, Discovering Your Passion, The Path to Your Authentic Self. Available Amazon, bookstores, everywhere. If they don't have it on the shelf, tell them, get it on the shelf. It's that good. You're going to really love this book. You're going to love her. You already do. I know you do. I'm just telling you, it's a great book. I've enjoyed it. I think I've read it twice, and I've looked through it again the third time. I have it completely. It's great. That's all I can tell you. You're listening to her here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Linda Craft Team Realtors are our original longtime sponsor. Listen, let me just tell you something about them. They help people transition in life. And I know that you're saying to me, what this real estate, listen, wherever you've lived, there's been a life transition. Let's face it. They know how to take the stress out of it. It's what they've been doing for now 40 years, right? So when you're ready to sell your home, buy your home, and you want the transition leaders of life, start with Linda Craft Team Realtors. It's lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And a new sponsor to the show. I love them, Zoundy. Listen, I have done I've done 4 books. 2 of them have been audio. I just want to tell you, Zoundy is a brand new audio space for authors, publishers, and professionals. I'm just telling you, it's cutting edge marketing. Let me tell you what they do. If you're an author or a publisher and you want to know who's listening to my book, Zoundy can do that. Do you want to give out your book for free to a large audience? Right? You could create a special code. Zoundy does that. I have codes literally that I could put on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, wherever, where people can download my book for free. And I then have a database of who's reading my book and downloading it. It's perfect. It works great. Listen, why don't you join Zoundy today? Here's what you need to do. Just go to Zoundy, ZOUNDY.com/J, and then sign up and get a discount by using my special code J25. That's JAY25. Just go to Zoundy.com/J, use J25. You're going to be so glad you did. I promise you will. We're back here on A New Direction with my friend, author, and owner of Kapri Law Firm, Shadan Kapri, and book, Discovering Your Passion. Shadan, I want to take us to chapter 2, Rediscovering Yourself. Labels and roles kill us over time. Talk to us about rediscovering ourselves through, the labels of dad, mom, sister, brother, attorney, coach, right? We have all these labels and we got to do all these roles. Help us get past it.
Well, and the problem with labels is they're so self-limiting, right? They just sort of describe one aspect of our life. It doesn't really encapsulate who we are as an individual. And so I talk about in the book how you have to kind of let go of these labels. You have to sort of overcome these sort of these ideas of who we are. You're the mother, you're the father, you're the sister, you're the brother, you're the son. And some people live their entire lives within the bounds of these labels. But as people, we're so much more to them. And so part of discovering your passion is to understand that the label is sort of overtaken your life. You've become, the son, you've become the husband, and everything else has sort of fallen to the wayside, including your passion in life, including the things that make you come alive, including the things that make you want to get up in the morning. And I think it's so important to understand that it's not even about recognition. Most of us are not going to be famous, and we're not supposed to be famous, but it's about putting out meaningful work that impacts other people's lives. It's not about recognition. It's not about having your name in the newspaper. It's about doing something that you feel proud of, that makes you want to get up in the morning, that even in your worst day, you think, okay, I still have this, whatever this is, writing, creating, art, I still have this, and this will get me through. And we all have it, but oftentimes we just get so stuck in these labels and these ideas of who we are that we lose the real essence of who we are inside, because we believe the label as being sort of the description of who we are as a person.
I love that. And something else that I love that you write in chapter 4, which I'm skipping over to, is you got to listen to life. And here's something that you said that just seems to coincide with this, is that you say many people fail to really listen to their lives until they're about to die. And you say the truth is that your life has been communicating with you the whole time. It communicates with you in small ways, large ways, and in ways you don't even understand until years later. And that really a next step in discovering your passion is to listen to your life. How do we do it?
Well, and you hear this a lot. People that get cancer, when they're in the process of dying, they finally feel free to do what they want to do because they're like, I don't have a lot of time left. And I've read so many stories of people who get cancer, who get really sick, and then they decide to actually pursue whatever that thing was that they let go of. And sometimes they go into remission. Sometimes it's amazing what can happen when you actually listen to your life and you allow life to guide you instead of having this preconceived notion of what you think your life should look like. And so I tell people, don't be one of those individuals that waits to the end of your life. Oh, I did that for years. I wrote this book in my 20s and then I shelved it. I just shelved it. I really wrote the book for myself because it's what I needed to read in my 20s. And I put it in my closet and I didn't even look at it. And then years later, when I got married, I remember telling my husband about this. And just recently, he was like, "What happened to that book that you wrote and put in the closet?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, no one's going to read it. I mean, it was really just written for me." And he's like, "No, I think you should release it to the world." And so, thank God he said that, because that really kind of encouraged me to do that. And the response has been wonderful. I think I've really tapped into, I've resonated with people about how we need to sort of overcome all these things in our lives in order to figure out who we actually are. And oftentimes that journey is the best journey that we can take. Not the journey to become uber successful or uber rich or uber, whatever, the best attorney in.
We are experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties. So if you're watching with us, stay with us. Shadan has disappeared. She's coming back right now.
Okay, are we back? I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
These people are trying to call me and it just kind of messes up our little flow. Are we really back, or are we not back?
No, actually, we are back. And according to everybody, they're still watching us, so that's good.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, people keep on trying to call me. That's why it kind of.
Yeah. So that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So you were just to finish up, listening to life, finding your passion. You need to begin listening to life, the people in it, the experiences, and the pain as well. Right. And then you go on to say in chapter 5, recognize your destructive voice. And I thought this is interesting because the reason why I think that we don't listen to life, and by the way, what was your husband's name?
Jeremy.
Jeremy, thank you for pushing her to write this book. By the way, just thank you. Recognizing your destructive voice in chapter 5, you say we all have it, voice inside us that tells us we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we can't do it. This borderlines into imposter syndrome. It also gets into this mindset, and I'm big on mindset as a mindset coach, mindset of that I can't. And I think it was Henry Ford who said, maybe it was Einstein, I don't remember who said it, but whether you can or you can't, you're right. Right?
Yeah.
Help us with this destructive voice.
I remember, I remember being in high school. I remember being in my guidance counselor's office, and I remember this like it was yesterday. And I remember telling him, Mr. McCrae, that was his name. I remember saying, "Yeah, I had these dreams," and I started to list things that I wanted to do. And I said, "Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't think I'm going to be able to get any of them done." And he looked at me straight in the eye and he said, "The world is going to try to limit you. They're going to try to put you in a box. Don't do it yourself." And that's something that has stayed with me all these years. It's like, we have enough people telling us we can't do this, we can't do that. Don't add to that voice inside of you. And we all have it. I have it. I mean, when I was trying to get this book out, there was the voice, "Oh, no one's going to read it. Why are you doing this? It's a waste of your time." But then I thought to myself, no, that voice, nothing positive comes from being negative. Nothing good comes from focusing on the darkness. And we all do it because we all go through life. But at some point, you have to understand that those voices are supposed to be there evolutionary to keep us safe. We don't have the same dangers that our ancestors have. So now the voices are really working against us instead of helping us survive. And so there comes a point in your life where you just have to tell that voice to sit down and shut up. And I do this every day. It's like, thank you, but no thank you. I'm moving forward. And you have to do this continuously throughout your life. Otherwise, that voice will self-sabotage you over and over and over again, to the point where, you hear people become alcoholics and drug addicts, and because it's just that voice takes over, and there's nothing good from that voice. Nothing. And many of us spend years, I mean, there were times in my 20s where I had this constant negative stream in my mind. And finally, I was just like, this has to stop. This is not helping me. This is just pushing me backwards. I have to limit that voice. And sometimes I'll be like, shut up. And, it helps. It helps to kind of quiet that voice inside of me that says, you can't do it. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. This is way above your pay grade.
I'm reminded my first editor of my first book, 11 years ago, my first book I wrote. I remember Suzanne said to me, I told her, I said, I am so sorry that I'm not a very good writer. I said, I didn't do well in college, and I didn't do well. I didn't do well in college. I didn't do well in, my grammar has never been great. I've had to work on it, constantly work on it. And I said, so I'm sorry. And she said to me, she goes, whatever those voices are you heard in your head, you tell them to shut up because you're a great writer. She said, no one can say what you say in the way that you say it. And I love reading what you write. And that meant so much to me. And I've never heard those voices again after she said it, because she said, it's my job to clean up anything that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
You write, let me do my job. And you tell those voices to shut up. Wow. So powerful, right? I mean, it's so powerful. And I got permission to tell the voices to shut up.
Yeah, it's life-changing.
It is
life-changing.
Yeah, it really is. When you say, we need to discover your passion, are you talking that people should quit their job and stop paying their bills?
Oh, no. And I talk about this in the book. I'm like,
I know you do.
I don't advocate for burning your life down. I really don't. I mean, sometimes that will happen in life. Your life will get burned down just because of things, and
right.
You have to start over. But I don't advocate. What I'm saying is you can have your day job and still pursue your passion. You have to create space and time for these things, because if you don't, everything else will, take up your time, your responsibilities, your obligations, your job, your family, your friends. So what I say is that we need our passions, but we also need our day jobs, because we all have to pay the bills. That's just the reality of life. And sometimes when we come home, during a very hard day and we can pursue our passions, that gives us the levity that we need. That gives us sort of the balance and the perspective that we need. So both of them can coexist together. You don't have to burn your life down and, start a band and start touring America. You can do that in your free time and still hold on to your husband, your wife, your career, your house, the things that are important to you. And so I think that's really important. A lot of people think, discovering your passion, I'm just going to completely become a new person. No, you're the same individual. You're just creating space and time in your life to do the things that really make you come alive. And when you come alive, you contribute better to your community, to your family, to your friends. And that's something that no one can take away from you.
And I think we could say, but we can also say that it can happen where your passion can be your career.
Right.
It can
Taylor Swift's a great example of that. I mean, Her passion is music. Her passion is songwriting, regardless of what people think of her. But there's, it's hard to become the Taylor Swift of the world.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, that it's very, very difficult to do. I want to jump to chapter 15 real quick. It's called Forgive. Right. Here's what you say. For so many, finding their passion remains inherently difficult because of their feelings of anger, betrayal, and injustice that weigh down their spirit every day. These layers of destructive emotions keep them from finding their true voice and ability to find their passion because they're too focused on their pain. Forgiveness is a part of discovering our passion, isn't it?
It is. And part of it is also forgiving others, but also forgiving yourself for allowing yourself to go through whatever it is that you went through, for allowing yourself to be exposed to that abuse or, that mistreatment. And just saying, there's this quote about anger is like throwing a hot piece of coal, expecting not to get burned. When we have anger towards other people or resentment or grudges, that does something to us. It does something to our soul. It kind of buries us alive in some ways. And you see this all the time with people in the victim mentality. I'm just a victim. No, you're not a victim. You are an individual who went through hard things in life, but those hard things, there was a purpose for them. They changed you, and it's up to you if they change you for the better and you grow and you become the best version of yourself. And it's also up to you if they make you bitter and they make you be this angry individual. And we all have a choice because we're all at some point, and sometimes it's multiple points in our life, that we're at that crossroads, right? And we can either go left or right. And we're like, it's a different life. This life is filled with like wonder and curiosity and excitement and possibilities. And this life is filled with anger and frustration and this deep seated sort of injustice. Whereas, like, which path do you choose? And this is going to sound so crazy, but I remember there was a time in my 20s. I think I was 25 or 26, and I was driving because that's what I would do, when I was really stressed out and I just need to think. I'd get in my car and I would drive. And I remember coming to this road that actually had a fork in it. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I remember thinking, "Oh my God, this is so symbolic of where I am in my life right now. I can either go this way or this way." And depending on which way I choose, it's going to have such a profound impact on my life, on the people that I love. And it's never too late to turn around. That's the other thing I want people to know. Even if you go down the wrong path, which we all do, it's never too late to turn around and sort of to take whatever negative is happening in your life, figure out ways to make it positive. And sometimes it's just a matter of sharing our stories, because when we share our stories, it liberates other people to become who they is, aspire to become. When we share our stories, there's something very healing on knowing that we're not the only ones that go through these injustices. And honestly, you and I could I could tell you all the crappy things that happened to me in my life. I won't, but I'm just saying that you don't get out of this without having scars. It's what you choose to do with those scars that determine the rest of your life, not the scars themselves.
And that's so beautiful. And then you just jump. You see, this book segues so beautifully the way you've written it, because we move from 15 to FR, forgive, and then we go into 16, because here's the segue that you just gave me: be more conscious of your thoughts. Because you said our thoughts and choices are our most prized possessions. They are the only things in this world that we truly control. Our thoughts determine who we are and who we'll become. Help us get more conscious of our mindset, and our thoughts.
Well, I think it's funny because we often think when we're angry or upset at someone, we think that we're hurting them, right? It's like, oh, I have this much anger towards, let's say, a coworker or a neighbor or a family member. But really, oftentimes that person doesn't even know. They don't even know the damage they've caused. And so it's just a feedback loop, because instead of hurting them, we're hurting ourselves. We sit there and we ruminate on what they did to us, or how we were treated unfairly, and not realizing that it's all coming back to us. The person oftentimes doesn't even know the extent of damage that they've done, right? They don't know how they've hurt you. And so and I've seen people do this, they spend years, decades of their life just living in this victim mentality of, this happened to me, this was so unfair, I'm never going to forgive them, how could they have done this to me? Not realizing that you're not hurting them, you're hurting yourself. These are all feelings that are coming back to you. And so when we forgive, it's not that we're letting the other person off the hook. We're letting ourselves off the hook. We're giving ourselves a chance to actually have a life that we want to have, that's not just like buried under anger, resentment, frustration. And we all go through it. Again, these are things I wish we'd be able to teach in school, because I really think that these are the fundamentals of life. And oftentimes we either learn it ourselves, or, we read a book, or a lot of times people don't learn it. You see them, sometimes if you go through airports, I have this thing that I love to do with my husband when we travel. We'll be sitting at an airport and I'm always like, look at the women over 50. So many of them like have this like angry look on their face. Like people watching is one of my favorite things. And I always tell my husband, like, look at that one. Like, she just looks so angry, at life. And I think part of that is because people live their lives doing what they're supposed to do, right? They get an education, they get married, they have kids, they sacrifice for their families. And then they get in their 50s and 60s and they're angry because they're like, well, what about me? What about my dreams? What about the things I wanted to do? Why did that become last on the list? And that's where you see a lot of people sort of, it's in their faces. It's like you can see it in their eyes, just sort of that, almost like this life has defeated them because they weren't allowed to put themselves first. I am allowing you to put yourself first. Please put yourself first, because when you do that, it ends up your family's happier, your community does better. It's this domino effect. When we put ourselves first and we help, the best version of us come out, it inspires others to do the same. And it can have such a great rippling effect.
That's beautiful. Her name is Shadan Kapri. The book, Discovering Your Passion, The Path to Your Authentic Self. Brilliant. And you know what? We only got one segment left. You're listening to her here on A New Direction. Folks, Linda Craft Team Realtors, let me tell you about them. Go to their website. I think it's the most comprehensive real estate website there is out there in the land, lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. Listen, everything's there. The listings, what's for sale, what's, prices, everything that you're looking for there. But then there's the other little things that you may not think of. Like they have like a child psychologist writing a post on moving with kids, or the veterinarian who writes a post about moving with your pets, or they have a podcast called Real Estate Right Now, where they're interviewing people who who talk about real estate matters that really matter to you. Listen, it's so comprehensive. It's amazing. Check it out. It's lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. Also Zoundy. Listen, I love Zoundy. I'm telling you, I joined it for a reason. And the reason why I joined it is because it's making a difference already. Zoundy helps authors, publishers, and professionals in the audiobook space. It is a marketing tool. It simplifies the process while unlocking unlimited opportunities for you. Whether it's your first audiobook, you're scaling your catalog, or you're leveraging your audiobook to market other products and services, just go to Zoundy.com, Zoundy.com. And then not just go Zoundy.com, go Zoundy.com/J, J-A-Y, and then be sure to use the promo code JAY25. That's J25. You'll unlock special savings. You're going to love them. Zoundy.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Shadan Kapri, who I just adore this book. And I love her too. She's outstanding. The book, Discovering Your Passion, The Path to Your Authentic Self. Are you enjoying this at all?
Oh my God, this is what gets me up in the morning. Are you kidding me? This is the highlight of my life right here. Just helping people become the best versions of themselves and have the best life they can. Because trust me, I spent a good portion of my 20s depressed, feeling like, oh my God, where's my life going? So if I can help someone get through that, then all my pain has been for the better.
Well, thank you for doing that. And I know the listeners thank you as well. Okay, so speed round. Here we go. We got the 10 steps getting close to your dreams. Are you ready for this? Mm-hmm. We're gonna see how we do here. Okay, in the next 9 minutes or so. All right, step one. I'm going to give you the step. You tell me what we got to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. Step one: believe and imagine.
Yes, the first step is to actually believe that it's possible, because every time you have a new thought, you create a new neural pathway in your mind. And so it's amazing once you start to believe that this is something that's within your reach, and you start to imagine it. And you see this with athletes. They think about their routine over and over and over again. And I think dreams are the same thing. Think about your dream. Imagine actually accomplishing it. Imagine who you have to become to create that dream, and work towards that process.
Step two: become an expert.
Yes, this is where I am a research nut. I love to research. It's one of my favorite things. Like, some people call it obsession. I call it fun. Each person has their own perspective, but learn as much as you can. If your passion is writing, learn as much as you can about the craft, about the process, about what it takes, and enjoy it. Enjoy the process of learning. There's something very powerful in that.
Step three: design a plan.
My wise brother growing up would always say, no ship gets to the harbor without a plan. You need a plan. Even if you end up changing the plan, which you will, you need some sort of plan to kind of help you get from point A to point B. And you adjust as you go, but that plan can sometimes keep you on the right path when you get distracted by life.
Beautiful. Step four: nothing will substitute hard work.
Right. And this goes back to enjoying the process. When you enjoy what you do, it's not hard work. It's part of something greater than yourself. So stay on it. Every no gets you closer to a yes. I'm a big believer in that. Stay with it. Keep going, even if it takes years. The time is going to pass. At least you're doing something productive for yourself.
Love that. I love that you quoted Agamemnon and the greatest salesman in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every no is another step closer to yes. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Step 5. Oh, I love this one. Go with the flow.
Yes, go with the flow. You're going to have unexpected things that happen. Unexpected situations are going to happen. That's part of life. Adjust, revisit, reimagine, do it as many times as you have to. You are the greatest project you will ever work on. And so don't let life defeat you. You just get back in that trench, you figure out your next step, and then you move forward, and you move forward, confidently, knowing that whatever it is, you'll figure it out.
Love it. All right, here we go. Step 6. Surround yourself with support.
Yes, this is the most important. This is so important. And it doesn't have to be family and friends. It can be really literally anyone. Some of the most powerful conversations I've had with people where I felt really supported and seen was strangers on trains, airplanes. I mean, just surround yourself with like-minded people who believe that things are possible, who don't have this narrow view of life, and who don't have this narrow view of what success looks like. Success is different for each of us. What one person may look like success, another person may see that and see failure. So surround yourself with people that believe in you and that push you and that love you for you, not for what you can create or the success that you bring.
It's the reason why we do this show. Mm-hmm. Is we want to be a show that's supportive. I mean, the reason why I bring people like you on the show is to let people know that there are people out there who write things and talk about things, and that we do this show to support people around the world, to let them know we're on your team, man. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We want to see you grow. We want to see you, whatever success means to you. I don't have a specific thing of what success is, or it whatever that is to you, man. We're all for you. We're cheering you on. I promise you, Shadan and I are cheering you on. We want you to be. We believe in you, mm-hmm. and we want the best for you. I mean, that's the reason I do this show. I'm not doing it to entertain you. Hopefully, it's somewhat entertaining. I'm doing it because I want you to know that we support you, we care about you, and we want to see you successful. Right? I mean, I believe that's so true. And you're right. People out there listening to us right now don't know us, but we're on your team. I promise you. Step 7, have patience.
Yeah, this sometimes is the hardest part of all of it, is because things don't happen as fast as we want. And this has happened to me as well, where I'm like, I should be further along this process. But no. It's okay. Setbacks and detours, that's a part of the process. It's a part of the learning. We learn more from our setbacks and our detours and our failures than we ever will our successes. So take that as an opportunity to turn something negative into positive. Because ultimately it's what we do with what happens to us that matters, not what actually happens to us.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting we get into this mode of going, I'm not as far as I want to be. But here's what I would say to you too, and I know Shadan's going to agree with me. Stop where you're at, take a look back and see how far you've come. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because
and
you go ahead.
There's a past version of you that is so proud of how far you've become. There's a past version of you that prayed to be in this position today. So focus on that. Focus on how far you've actually come and sort of where you were. You may not be where you want to be, and that's fine, but there's still things you need to learn. There's still ways you need to evolve and change. And that's part of the journey. That's part of the fun.
Yeah, it really is. Step 8, brainstorm.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things because I'm an attorney by day, and people come to me. Oftentimes they're in crisis. And I always tell people, don't think inside the box. Think there is no box. Don't limit yourself to just things that you think could happen. Think outside, brainstorm ideas, think about things that you want, think about things that are different than what the norm is. And so I love brainstorming. It's one of my favorite things to do. And a lot of my clients love it because I come up with unique solutions to their problems. Or I'm like, well, what about this? Or did you think about that? Or, how can we take this negative situation and turn it into a positive? And how can you use what happened to you to help others? So brainstorm, brainstorm, brainstorm. Don't think inside the box. Think there is no box.
Mhm. Step 9, eliminate the obstacles.
My father, rest his soul, he passed away in 2021, and he was a master at this. He was a master at overcoming, eliminating, moving forward. In fact, when people would tell him you can't do XYZ, he was like, "Oh, really? This is this is exciting. Now we've hit the fun." So eliminate the obstacles. Don't see obstacles as stumbling blocks. See them as stepping stones, and they will become that if you change your mindset and the way you look at them.
Beautiful. Step 10, one that everybody's waiting for. A drum roll, please. I don't have one, but if we did, here it is. Give your time to others. Wow. Didn't see this coming.
I in my 20s I created this sort of manual for life for myself. And one of the first things is like things I can do when I'm going through a hard time. And one of the top things on that list is helping others, because when you help others, it takes you out of your own mind. I remember in my 20s, one of the things I did is when I would go through like a crushing period, I'd go to the grocery store and I'd buy a whole bunch of food and donate to the food bank. And I loved doing that because I was like, well, at least my pain or whatever I'm going through has helped somebody else. So anytime you step outside yourself and you help others, it helps to bring perspective to what you're going through. And there's always someone going through something more difficult. And if you can give them a hand, then again, that's a legacy worth fighting for.
Yeah. I'm gonna create an 11th one that you have here. But you don't call it number 11, but I'm gonna call it number 11. And that is read about people who have done the things that you want to do. Because you say this, when you're looking for inspiration, read about Milton Hershey, Babe Ruth, the right Walt Disney. And I just want to say something about this, because when I turned 50, I was nowhere where I wanted to be, and I was really down on myself at that in that part of my life. And I started reading stories about all these people after the age of 50 who started their careers. And Julia Child, right? Colonel Sanders, Harlan Sanders, right? 67, living in his car. Grandma Moses was 90 years old. It was the first painting. I mean, I started reading about these people, different people. And Ray Kroc was over 50 before he discovered McDonald's. I read about these people and I thought to myself, it's not over. And I think what happens is, for so many of us, we think, I'm too old to change, or nothing, I messed it up. It's just not true. I wrote my first book at 50. I published my first book at 50, and I've written 3 since then. Right? So I have 4 books in the thing. It's not over, folks. I'm just telling you, this idea that Shadan is saying, discovering your passion, can be any time, but don't wait any longer, is my suggestion. What would you say, Shadan?
I would say don't be like the people in airports where you can see like the frustration and sadness and bitterness in their face. Don't become that, because if we do nothing, it's inevitable. That's who we all become. When we put everyone else first, when we put our needs and our dreams and the things that create joy in us, when we put that last, you will create a life by default. And genuinely, that's a life of anger, resentment, and bitterness. And don't let that happen to you. It's not a life that anyone wants. But if we're aware of it, then we can prevent it. And that's my hope for everyone watching this right now.
Beautiful. You've been great. Our time is up. We've done an hour. Tell people how they can get a hold of you or reach out to you if they want to learn more, or if they'd like to get some more help. What can they do?
Well, they can go to my website, www.discoveringyourpassion.com. I have social media. I'm on Instagram, I have Twitter. Reach out to me. You can find my email online if you decide. Get the book. I think the book is really inspirational. I think, we're going through a hard time as a country, and I think what we need to sort of find those things that bring that light inside of us and share those with the world. And I think that's something that's worth fighting for.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shadan. Stay with me. Folks, here's the show. You know, I say to you every week, you're in control of three things: your attitude, your effort, your resiliency. Fact of the matter is, life is not always fair. It's not always going to give you what you want, but you're in control of your attitude. Not always easy, as we've said today, but you know what? You do have control over how you're going to respond to life. Take control of it. Your effort's tied to your excellence. I know you don't feel good all the time. Nobody has that, feels great every day. But can you be excellent every day? Absolutely, because what you can do is give your best, and that's within your control. And then finally, your resiliency. Folks, we're going to all get punched in the mouth and punched in the gut and get knocked down. But you need to make a choice to get back up. And let me tell you why you need to get back up. Because we need you and you're worth it. And we need you on the team. So get back up. All right? We're here for you. You know what? I'll be back next week with another great guest, another great book. It's going to be an automatically great show, which makes my job so much easier. As I say to you all over the world, you had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Wherever you listen to the show or watch the show, you know what? Give us a 5-star positive review. We appreciate it so much. As I say to you all over the world, you know what that is. Ciao, everybody.